My peoples. My peoples. Errol the Truth Spence versus Keith One Time Thurman. That fight, it seemed like it was never going to happen. When Keith was an undefeated champion, Errol Spence tried to get that fight. Keith wouldn't give him an opportunity. And then when the tables turned, Errol gave him the same treatment. He wouldn't give Keith Thurman an opportunity. Well, now, neither one of those fighters, elite level fighters, are a champion. And it looks like this fight may actually happen. Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman. What do we think happens if this fight goes down? Y'all already know, man. I'm JSmiff. This is Box Center. This is your favorite boxer's favorite boxing show. And we're going to talk about it. We have to talk about it. Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, both of them have been inactive a lot throughout the last few years. Errol hasn't been back in the ring since he lost to Terrence Crawford about 2 years ago. And Keith Thurman did have a comeback fight, and he actually won in beautiful fashion. He surprised a lot of people. I personally didn't think, after being out of boxing for 2 years maybe, he was going to look so sharp. He fought a young kid, good young fighter, a bit inexperienced, but Keith looked real sharp in there. And, stopped his opponent in beautiful fashion. So, I guess the question mark for this fight would be, how is Errol Spence going to be after 2 years of inactivity? How is Errol Spence, after losing the way that he lost to Terrence Crawford? We spoke about this before. Sometimes a fighter loses a fight where he takes a nasty beating, and they're not really the same after that. John Parham, salute, my brother. Appreciate you dropping in, my guy. So there's the magic question. What do we think about Errol Spence and Keith Thurman? Like I said, man, at some point I thought that fight was never going to happen, simply because when Keith Thurman didn't give Errol Spence an opportunity, Errol Spence returned the favor. When he was a unified champion, Keith wanted a shot. Errol didn't give it to him. He was like, nope, you don't want to fight me when you was the champion. Now I'm not going to fight you. And look, now it looks like that fight is actually going to happen. John Parham, hit the like button. Hell yeah, my peoples. Hit that like button. But again, man, let me know what y'all think. Errol Spence, Keith Thurman. I think that's a very interesting fight. At this point, it's going to be very interesting to see who'll be the favorite, simply because, a few years back, Errol Spence would have been the favorite to beat Keith Thurman. But today, in 2025, Errol has been inactive for 2 years. Keith Thurman has seen some inactivity in recent times. However, he did already do a comeback fight, and he looked really good. Now, I got to tell you, my peoples, I feel like Errol Spence is making a mistake coming back and going straight for Keith Thurman. And, that's something that he used to say, that he said before, no tune-up fights. He doesn't do tune-ups. I think when you're in your mid-30s and 2 years of inactivity, he should do a tune-up. That's my perspective. LCLC, come to LA one day. One day I'll come to LA, my brother. You fool. What up, brother? Muchas bendiciones. Appreciate you, my guy. Bendiciones. Talking boxing, man. Errol Spence, Keith Thurman. Is that fight actually going to happen? The Mexican G. I thought Errol Spence retired. To be honest, I thought he was going to retire. Simply because you may recall that he was in that slot where he was going to get a shot at Sebastian Fundora. And he pulled out of that fight. So he pulled out of the rematch with Terrence Crawford, pulled out of the fight with Fundora, and he's kind of been up in the air. We haven't really been hearing nothing about Errol trying to fight. So it appeared as if though he was considering retirement. You fool. Yo, did you see Island Boys boxing each other? It was a waste of 5 minutes of my life. Man, listen, I seen them two playing around with gloves. I won't even waste my time with those two. I won't even look. I respect their hustle. Those kids, man, they've been able to, carve a lane for themselves. They making money. The Island Boys, that's kind of like a little gimmick that they came up with, and it's worked out. So, salute to the Island Boys, but I'm not watching y'all box. The Mexican G. Spence was one of my favorite fighters. But that's what I'm telling you, the Mexican G. Errol Spence was such an important fighter, one of the most important boxers a few years back, and he kind of dropped off. He lost to Bud Crawford in such a devastating fashion that it looked like Crawford retired him. You see that, it's almost like we forgot about Errol Spence. Honestly, I was worried, and I'm still a little bit worried about Errol Spence's health. And the reason I say that is because little things that I noticed after he took that beating to Terrence Crawford. And I've seen this before, where a fighter takes a nasty beating and they're just not the same after that. I'm not saying that Errol Spence is not the same, but how much of Errol Spence have we really seen after he climbed the ring with Bud? Think about it. I used to follow Errol on Instagram, and he used to post a lot of stuff, hanging out with the family, training, different kind of things. And ever since he lost to Crawford, we don't really see Errol Spence like that no more on social media. He might tweet something here and there, but we don't really see, interviews where Errol Spence is just talking freely. So I don't know how good his mental faculties is right now. I know that may sound crazy, like, oh, he's good, he's alright. I had somebody tell me, oh, you're exaggerating. Ain't nothing wrong with him. But I ask you, my peoples, ever since Terrence Crawford stopped Errol Spence, how much of Errol have you seen? How many times have you seen him actually talking in a conversation, or giving interviews, or posting videos where he's talking into the camera? Not much. Not much. So it makes me wonder, is Spence, did he take such a nasty beating that maybe it affected his speech? Maybe it affected the way he talks. Maybe it affected the way that he sounds. And I think, I felt at some point that maybe they were, deliberately keeping Errol away from the cameras so people won't notice the damage that he received. I could be wrong. But, I've been worried about Errol. That's all I'm saying. I've been worried about the fact that we haven't really seen him like that after he took that beating. The Mexican G, I think Crawford took his confidence. I mean, that a fight like that is definitely going to affect your confidence. Definitely. He took a nasty beating. The Mexican G, Spence was the top of the world before Crawford fight, especially because of the rumors that he whooped Mayweather in sparring. Hell yeah. John Parham, true, makes sense. The Mexican G, Spence had been MIA since Crawford fight. That's why I'm a little bit worried about Errol. I'm trying to see, is he the same guy that he was before that fight? I don't know. Because it's like I told you, to me it felt like there's been a deliberate effort when it comes to keeping Errol away from the cameras. And we just haven't been able to see it. We don't know how good or how bad. We don't know. But the fact that you have to take this into consideration, the fact that Errol pulled out of a fight with Fundora that would have been a championship fight, that makes you wonder, why did he pull out of that fight? Was he maybe physically or mentally not prepared, for that type of fight. I don't know. I don't know, my peoples. But I gotta say, and I've said this before, in my opinion, after that fight, Errol Spence should have retired. Errol Spence should retire. Lindgren, 009. Hi. Does in boxing a tree grow or a knee grow? No, but goofballs like yourself get blocked for corny jokes. Like you're going into, like you're just looking around for YouTube accounts to say stupid stuff in. What a cornball, man. You out of here, Goofy. The Mexican G. I think Spence wouldn't beat Fundora. Fundora's a very flawed fighter. I mean, you got to consider the fact that Sebastian Fundora is very tall, and he's a tough opponent for anyone in the division. Not just because he's very tall. Obviously, he got power in both hands, and he can fight. Simple as that. Sebastian Fundora can fight. He's going to catch you with that uppercut going in, and he's going to hurt you. That long jab, that 1-2, that left hook, combination punching is on point. So, and I'm going to tell you something. When it was being rumored that Errol Spence and Sebastian Fundora were supposedly going to fight each other, I told people, I think Fundora may have this. I don't know if Errol Spence want to go from losing to Terence Crawford straight into Sebastian Fundora. I don't know if that would have been a good choice. But again, this is just speculation. Errol could be in great physical condition and great shape, great mentally. It could be. Rushlish News. Hello, my aunt. What's the deal, my G? Appreciate you dropping in. So Errol Spence, he could be in good shape, but I just have a weird feeling. The way that it has played out, if you follow Errol Spence on social media, if you followed him on Instagram like I did, he was a guy who was, he was out there a lot on social media, whether it's posting pictures, videos, whether he was just, a story of him saying something. And, after that fight, Errol Spence disappeared. I remember right after the fight that I was wondering, okay, let me see if he's going to do an interview, how he's going to look, how he's going to sound. And I remember it was months and months with no interview. And people asking, what's up with Errol? And I remember that they try to say, look, he's doing good, he's okay. But they will show like a picture of him across the street or an image of him, like, with his family somewhere. But you wouldn't really see him talking. You wouldn't really see how he sounds, how he looks, his mannerisms. Is he okay? And still till today, like I said, I haven't seen anything from Errol to tell me that he's doing good. We got to see it. We got to see it. But I think that's going to be the big question mark if Errol Spence and Keith Thurman are finally going to mix it up. I think that'll be the question mark. Keith Thurman, he had been inactive. And Keith Thurman has been inactive for quite some time at this point. But he did his comeback fight. And you saw Keith Thurman won in spectacular fashion. Looked real sharp. Of course, he was facing an opponent that wasn't as experienced, somebody who hasn't been on the big stage. Keith did what he was supposed to do. But he looked good. He looked sharp. How is Errol Spence going to look after 2 years of inactivity and, coming off of such a nasty beating? Is Errol Spence going to be able to be the same guy that we've seen before Terence Crawford? Can that happen? We got to wait and see. But I tell you, I'm excited about this fight. Even, because of course, when they were both undefeated, this would have been a bigger fight. But right now, it's still a very interesting fight. I want to see how is Errol able to bounce back? We already saw Keith Thurman recently. He looked good. How is Errol going to look? Because I see Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence as a very competitive fight. But who wins it? Who takes over in the later round? Or does somebody get stopped? Michael Walker, I think Keith Thurman is going to get beat. This fight way bigger for Spence and means so much more for him than Thurman. Ruslish, can he be more better? Look, I understand what you're saying, Michael Walker, but you have to consider what I just said, my brother. Keith Thurman fought recently after a 2-year hiatus, and he looked good. Did what he had to do, won in destructive fashion. Errol Spence hasn't been in the ring in 2 years. And we saw what happened in his last fight. He took a nasty pummeling from Bud Crawford. So, how is he going to look when he bounces back? Because, we tend to assume that a guy is just going to be the same. But is he going to be the same? We don't really know that, my brother. Angel Colon, Thurman trashing Spence. It's over for Spence. You see what I'm saying? And that's the point of view that I'm saying people have. Errol Spence has not been in the ring since taking that beating. How do we know that we're going to get back the same old Errol Spence that was a world champion, that was beating people up? How do we know? Now, let me tell you something. Your skills don't go nowhere. Errol Spence can fight. He's still going to have power. He's still going to have skills. But the real question is, what is his punch resistance going to look like? How is Errol Spence going to react when he get hit with a monster shot from Keith Thurman? We have to see it. We have to see it. Ruslish, skills never ends. That's what I'm saying. Errol Spence, he got his skills. He's an elite level fighter. But after 2 years of inactivity, in his mid-30s, I gotta see. Because we already know how Keith Thurman looks. We already seen it. And Keith stopped his opponent in brutal fashion. So we know the power is there. Michael Walker, it's possible he doesn't come back the same we've seen it happen a lot to big name fighters before, but it comes back the same. He's piecing Thurman up. I don't know, man. I don't know. We got to see it. We have to see it. What version of Errol Spence are we gonna get? Hopefully we find out. Like I said, this is a fight that at some point I thought it was never gonna happen. For real. I honestly believed that Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman is a fight that was not going to happen. Simply because Errol was like, I'm not going to give you an opportunity. You didn't want to give it to me when you was a champion and I was up and coming. Now you can't get a shot. So it's like that little situation where, Errol doesn't like Keith and he's like, I don't want to fight him. But now they're both in the same boat. They're both trying to climb back up. And Keith, at least with Keith, he got a tune-up fight. But supposedly he got hurt. Supposedly Keith, I don't know if it was an elbow, a hand, but supposedly he got hurt during that last fight. But obviously it wasn't a bad injury if he's already working on fighting Errol next. Rushless news. The future will tell us, bro. At all. Like I said, man, I think that Keith Thurman versus Errol Spence, that's a very interesting fight. Fans are going to be excited for this one. Two guys who don't like each other. So even though they haven't shared the ring, but there's history with them going back and forth on social media, dissing each other and all of that stuff. And you know that Keith Thurman knows how to sell a fight. I could imagine these press conferences. Michael Walker. Thurman isn't on a Terrence Crawford level. Let's not forget Spence is and was the favorite against Crawford. He isn't to be slept on and might put Thurman to sleep. I'm not crazy. It's just the facts. But let's point something out, my brother. We have not seen Errol Spence since he took that beating to Terrence Crawford. And the fact that we have not seen him says we don't know what version of Errol Spence we're going to get. We don't know how his punch resistance is going to be. We have to see it. We have to see it. How is Errol going to react when Keith Thurman catches him with a big shot? Rushless News. It was good, you know. Thanks for good talk. Appreciate it, my brother. No doubt. Angel Colon, one time winning. Spence need that paycheck. If it wasn't for injuries for Thurman, he was the top welterweight. I mean, look, Keith Thurman is without a doubt, well, not right now, but, 6-7 years ago, Keith Thurman was one of the best welterweights. But his last big win was Danny Garcia when they unified titles, and that was a great fight. That was a split decision win for Keith one-time Thurman. I wish they would have did a rematch, and that rematch hasn't happened. Maybe it does at 154, but Danny's been inactive. I know that Danny right now, he's promoting DSG Promotions. He's doing his thing, so I don't know if he's gonna stick to that. But Keith one-time Thurman was without a doubt one of the best welterweights. But after he beat Danny Garcia, I don't know if that fight he hurt his hand also, his career started to go downhill. And I'm not saying career started to go downhill as far as him getting beat up or anything like that, because he still only has one loss on his record. He only lost to Manny Pacquiao. But inactivity-wise, Keith started fighting one time a year or not at all. Whole year's passing, and he doesn't even climb the ring. So I think inactivity affected Keith Thurman's stock. His stock plummeted, because that's the thing about not just boxing, man. Any sport, if you disappear for a year or two, people forget about you. There's always up and coming talent, new guys, new faces that people put their focus on. If you disappear for a couple of years, people forget about you. Even Errol Spence, nobody's really was talking about him like that, because that's it, he's gone. Now I will say, I expect, who's gonna be the favorite between Keith Thurman and Errol Spence? Who's gonna be the favorite? Honestly, I believe that based on the time of inactivity of Errol Spence and the fact that Keith Thurman fought recently, won by knockout, I think Keith Thurman may be the favorite to win that fight. Angel Colon, you spitting fast, bro. Keep putting on for boxing. You do a great job. Appreciate it, Angel Colon. Really appreciate it, my brother. Box Center, this is, straight up for the real boxing fans, people who really love the sweet science. I'm glad you're enjoying it, my brother. Rushland News. My man, I'm from Russia, by the way. Subscribe to you already and wanted to future reviews. Ooh, appreciate it, my brother. Lately, I've been getting some love from Russia. Man, I appreciate my Russian brothers coming through and enjoying Box Center. By the way, there was some big fights yesterday in the UK, and I was actually calling those fights. Devastating knockout in the main event, my peoples. David, what's his last name? David Allen. David Allen won by brutal knockout. Y'all gotta go see the videos that I posted. I posted 3 short videos about that fight. What a brutal knockout, my people. That was devastating. Devastating. If y'all haven't seen those videos, y'all gotta check them out. Rustling News, you're welcome, my guy. I appreciate you. Michael Walker, Tank is getting the rematch. Let's shout that out. Oh, yeah, listen. Tank Davis versus Lamar Roach. Heck of a rematch. Anticipated rematch. We already know the first fight, how it played out. It don't get no more controversial than that. Tank Davis taking a knee, saying that he had to grease his eye, turning his back on the opponent, the referee not doing shit. Then it was a draw. The New York State Athletic Commission reviewed the outcome. They said it was a mistake. They said the referee should have did a point deduction, automatic 8 count when Tank Davis took a knee. Those are the rules, but nothing happened. They left the decision as is. So, controversy, and I'm ready for that rematch. That's a heck of an anticipated rematch, and I want to see it. Michael Walker, Tank putting the beats on him like Dr. Dre. Roach don't stand a chance. I'm going to tell you, my brother, based on the first fight, I'm going to go ahead and say Lamar Roach may possibly have Tank Davis's number. Now just hear me out. On Lace, salute my G. Wrestling news, in your opinion, who deserves the title? So let just hear me out, my peoples. Why I say Lamar Roach may have Tank Davis's number. I want you to please consider what I'm about to say. If we look at the first fight, it went 12 rounds, right? Lamar Roach did not go 12 rounds with Tank Davis by running around, by trying to survive, by clinching. This is not the type of fight where Tank Davis was just chasing him around and just couldn't catch him. Lamar Roach spent 12 rounds walking Tank Davis down. Am I lying? Whenever Tank Davis stood his ground, Lamar Roach stood there with him and traded blows inside of a phone booth. Am I lying? So all I'm trying to explain to you, my peoples, is that Lamar Roach has such a great game plan that he was able to go toe-to-toe, blow for blow with Tank Davis and never get hit with that shot that Tank Davis knocked people out with. What shot am I talking about? The counter left hand. The same shot Tank Davis knocked out Leo Santa Cruz with, knocked out Frank the Ghost Martin with, dropped Ryan Garcia, knocked out Rollies with. That counter left, boom! He couldn't catch Lamar Roach with that shot. Couldn't catch him. Couldn't do it. And Lamar Roach was right there face to face with him. So all I'm telling you is, for those who say that Tank Davis is going to smoke Lamar Roach, what about that first fight tells you that he's going to smoke him? What did you see in that first fight? And I don't even want to hear people tell me, nah, Tank Davis wasn't focused and Tank Davis wasn't the same anymore. I don't want to hear that shit. Lamar Roach putting all type of hands on Tank Davis is the reason why he couldn't focus. You know why? Because they thought Lamar Roach was going to be using footwork and was going to be all over the place and Tank was going to have to chase him around. And it turned out that it was Lamar Roach that was going to be chasing Tank down. Come on now. Michael Walker. Math is math. Tank had the fluke mash. The shot is landing. And when he catches Roach, it's lights out. I don't know what math you mathing. What math are you mathing, my brother? We watched them go 12 rounds. And the math showed you that Lamar Roach got the defense to not get hit by that shot. You're thinking that Tank Davis is going to catch Lamar Roach with a shot that he couldn't catch him with for a whole 12 rounds. And you holding on to faith like, yeah, but this time he's going to catch him. I don't know, my brother. I like your confidence, but I don't know. I don't feel like you about that. Rustless News. I think I want to watch these fights with him. If you think he's good. So, listen. Tank Davis versus Lamar Roach is going to be another very competitive fight. Which, by the way, Lamar Roach should have won the first one with the point deduction. And even without the point deduction, Lamar Roach should have won it. He outboxed Tank Davis, outworked him, threw and landed more punches. He should have won that fight. He should have won that fight. But Tank Davis is a big star. He's the champion. You got to take it from him more convincingly. The refs, the judges, they not having it. You got to snatch it from him. Gabe Rivera, dímelo, mi hermano. It was the grease, JSmiff. What's the deal, my brother? The grease in Tank Davis' eyes. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. We know that was cap. My peoples, don't forget to hit that like button, man. 10 of us in the building, 4 likes. Y'all don't got to do me like that. Michael Walker. It's not just the fight, but Tank's entire career. I didn't see anything that sold me on Roach being able to finish Tank the next fight. Isn't going the distance. Tank not messing around. I mean, I don't know why you're saying Tank not messing around. He wasn't messing around in the first fight, my brother. He wasn't joking around in the first fight, my G. Tank knows Lamar Roach. They sparred before. They know each other. So he know what type of fighter Lamar Roach. He know he wasn't going to fight a bum. It's not like he overlooked this guy who was a nobody. He knows Lamar Roach. He went there focused, had a game plan. Lamar Roach didn't let him operate the way he thought he would. Rustless News. What do you think the path of a fighter should be? I mean, boxing has 2 aspects. Boxing has, the business aspect where it's about get the most money you can. And it also has the aspect where you're building a legacy. I think that fighters, if you're skilled enough to be, one of the greats, you should focus on building your legacy. The money's going to come. The money's going to happen. If you start beating the big names, beating the best fighters, the money's going to come. So I think you should focus on building your legacy. But if you're a fighter who doesn't have that type of talent, but you're able to build star power, hey, go after the money. Like Jake Paul. He's a YouTuber who decided to box. He needs to go after the money. He ain't never going to have no damn legacy. That's a great fighter. Go get the money. Tank lost that fair and square. You know it, my brother. Tank lost that fight. We all saw it. Noble Young. What's the deal, my brother? On Laced. Hit that like button, my peoples. No C-class fighters over here. Yeah, man. I be trying to extract those likes from y'all. Rushless News. Yep, it's about a legacy and personal story. That's what I'm saying. For fighters who are very talented, they should always go after legacy. Because at the end of the day, when you win those big fights, the money's going to come on its own. The money is going to happen. You're going to become a big star. It's the inevitable. It is the inevitable. Now, it's like I said, man, Tank Davis versus Lamar Roach, that's a fight that I think is going to play out very similar to the first one. Only difference, I think Lamar Roach is going to do a little bit more to make sure that the judges give him the win that he deserved the first time around. Love more Hinduism. Tank gotta stop painting them nails. I don't know, man, because y'all remember, and I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just reminding y'all that Floyd Mayweather said Tank got a little sugar in his tank. I don't know about that, but Tank be doing them little fruity dances. What's that shit he be doing? Looking all fruity and shit. I don't know. Gabe Rivera. It's a 50-50 fight this time. All the pressure on Tank this time. I think so. If he wasn't the first fight mentally, maybe he shouldn't fight. I mean, look. I honestly do believe that the pressure is on Tank Davis simply because he was expected to win. He was expected to win by knockout in that first fight. And now we actually got to see how good Lamar Roach is. We got to see it. Because most of us, and I say most of us, I'm including myself, only seen Lamar Roach highlights before he faced Tank Davis. The only Lamar Roach fight that I saw was Lamar Roach versus Jamel Herring. I saw Lamar Roach versus Jamel Herring. Outside of that, I really had not seen Lamar Roach like that. And we found out. We found out. The damage has been done by Mr. Roach. Rushless News, my man, I don't know you like a person and I see you for the first time. Can you tell us a few words about yourself? Thanks. Oh, no doubt, my brother. So, obviously, my name is Jay. I'm from the Dominican Republic. I actually grew up in New York, in Manhattan, to be more specific. I was an amateur boxer. I actually made it to the Daily News Golden Gloves to the semifinals. I lost in the semifinals. And after taking that loss, which I was extremely confident, I thought I was going to, win and go to the finals. In case you don't know, in the Daily News Golden Gloves, if you make it to the finals, you get to fight in Madison Square Garden. So I was one fight away from the finals and I lost. So that kind of, made me feel disappointed about boxing that I lost. I stopped training little by little. I stopped running. Started, messing around in the streets and shit, getting a little bit of money. And eventually I ended up quitting boxing. So I boxed as an amateur, quit boxing when I was about 19 years old, I think. And from there, I've been following boxing, studying boxing, watching fights, analyzing them. But I never got to fight as a professional. I wanted to fight as a professional, but I never got the opportunity. Well, at 44 years old, I met a promoter out here in the Dominican Republic. I was doing some footage for some of his fights that he had upcoming. And I said, you know what? I want to fight. I don't want to become an old man and say I never stepped in the ring as a professional fighter. And I did that. I signed up, signed a contract. I know what a boxing contract actually looks like. And at 44 years old, I made my professional debut. I actually went, it was a 4-rounder. I lost the fight, but it was a good competitive fight. I dropped my opponent. He dropped me. We went blow for blow. And at the end, he ended up winning a decision. So there's a little bit about myself right there. Boxed as an amateur, had one fight as a professional. I've been following boxing, I'm talking about closely. Everything that's going on, I'm always, tuned in. And that's it. A couple years back, a lot of people always used to tell me, yo, Jay, listen, man, you need to do your channel and start talking boxing. Because there's a lot of people on YouTube talking boxing. They don't know shit about it. And the funny thing is, my peoples, this channel right here, I did it like 7 years ago, I think. Maybe 8 years ago. I don't know how many. I did this channel a long time ago. And I never created no content. I just never did it because I was like, who the fuck is going to listen to me anyways? They don't know me. They not going to pay attention to what I got to say. And, last year, somebody told me, Jay, you got to do that channel. You got to talk boxing. The people got to hear what you got to. And then I finally said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Fuck it. And there you go. This is Box Center. And this is for you, my peoples. Hash Bash. JSmiff. You were getting that uptown money. Ooh, what you know about that uptown money? 137 from Broadway, my peoples. That's where I was at. Rushless News. Thanks for answering. You're a good man, I think. And in my opinion, you look like a real boxer, Thanks for the story. I appreciate it, my brother. By the way, I am going to be participating in an exhibition in July. So y'all going to see me boxing. Y'all going to see me. Check it out. Yo, y'all gonna see me boxing in July, my people. July 12th, I'm gonna be in an exhibition. I'm gonna give y'all more details about that real soon. Marlon London, and done well too. Ooh, appreciate it, my brother. Rushless News. You know what you're trolling about? It's in the air. I don't know what you mean by that. It's in the air. John Parham. I respect you being unbiased. I appreciate it, my brother. Look, sometimes people say that I'm a hater if I criticize a fighter or if I don't say something, that they want to hear about a certain fighter. But at the end of the day, I'm somebody who really just loves the sport of boxing. I talk about everybody, whether it's positive or negative, whatever the case may be. Love more Hinduism. You know it, my brother. 137 and Broadway by the one train. Woo. John Parra. He meant talking, not trolling. Oh, okay, okay. Marlon London talking about. He meant talking, bro. Oh, okay, got it, got it. So yeah, my peoples, when it comes to the sweet science, it's the sport that I love, and I just had to do it already. I had so many people telling me, "Yo, Jay, you gotta go on YouTube. You gotta do it. You gotta do it." I say, you know what? Let me give the people what they need. Let me give the people what they want. And look, I'm surprised to see how boxing fans, receive me with open arms. Fans from Canada, from the UK, from Russia. It's like I'm super surprised because I did not expect it. I thought, who's gonna pay attention to what I have to say? Maybe people from New York. Maybe the boxing fans from New York. They have a similar accent to myself, so they might actually pay attention to what I have to say. But I'm surprised to see, people from all over the world that's showing me love. Rushless News. I meant the things you talking, it's in the air like we can touch it. Very good storytelling about the sport. I appreciate it, my brother. I really appreciate that. And I think, for me, it's easy to talk about it because, like I said, man, I really love the sport of boxing. And I'm just talking about what I enjoy. Simple as that. And I can tell you, being someone who participated in boxing, it gives me a little bit of an insight. And I also, when I was an amateur boxer, I used to train in Gleason's gym. That's in Brooklyn, New York. That's where Zab Judah used to train. I actually met Zab Judah when he had like 11, 12 professional fights. And I used to see him every day in the gym. And I find that interesting because, years down the line, 15, 20 years later, I actually hit Zap Judah up on Instagram. Yo, Zap, I used to train in Gleason's, bro. You remember me? I used to train with Maximo. And right away, he hit me back like, yo, yeah, I remember you. And he started following me. So, Zap Judah's been someone who's shown me mad love since I started creating content for boxing. I talk to him privately sometimes. Actually, he's one of the first interviews that I did for this channel. If you go back to the beginning, you'll find me talking to Zap Judah right before Devin Haney was going to fight. I can't remember who Devin Haney was going to fight, and me and Zap was talking about it. Love more Hinduism. NY accent Latino is a plus. You know it. That's where we from, my guy. On Lace, JSmiff. I would always go to Jimmy Jazz on 125th. Ooh. Jimmy Jazz on 125th? That's a hot spot over there. You was around the hot spots too, huh? Rushless News. I'm surprised too because I'm in another part of the world and watching you, my man. That's what I'm saying. Look, you're in Russia. And some of my peoples come up in here from Canada, from the UK, from India, from all over the world. Like think about it. This is a very small channel. I have like 1,200 subscribers. And even with 1,200 subscribers, there's people from all over the world. From Australia, my brothers from Australia been showing me a lot of love. Shout out and salute to my peoples in Australia, man. We're on a, I have people who rock with me that are on a whole different time zone, who get up early in the morning to watch. Like, that's crazy. Love more Hinduism, 145th McDonald's. Ooh, I used to go there a lot. Because, then you could just take the little downhill and go to Riverside to go in Riverbank State Park right there. Boom. Straight down the block. But yeah, my peoples, Box Center. And I'm going to tell you something. And I've been saying it. They say speak it into existence. But in reality, I see it as the inevitable. Box Center, it's a small channel right now. A lot of people don't know me yet. But this is going to be the #1 boxing channel. I don't know when. I can't give you a time frame. But it's the inevitable, my peoples. I promise you. You guys are the first ones to really know about me. To say, yeah, I know him. So when I get to where I'm going, you guys are gonna be able to. Yeah, I knew him when nobody knew about him. When people wasn't paying no attention, I already knew this guy was gonna go somewhere. So that's where we headed at, my people. That's where I'm headed for number one. There's no getting around it. No getting around it. And like I said, in the month of July, I'm gonna be in an exhibition, and I'm super excited about that because I get to climb in the ring. I get to trade leather. I'm gonna hit with punches. I'm gonna get hit with some punches. But I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait till July. Plus, next week, I'm going to start going to the gym to train. So, y'all going to see videos from the gym. Y'all going to see me hitting the bag. Some sparring video. Y'all going to see what your boy JSmiff is able to do with these hands. Underrated Will. What's up, JSmiff? What's the deal, my brother? Appreciate you dropping in. So, look. That fight hasn't been signed. Contracts hasn't been signed. It looks like they're still, in negotiations. But y'all tell me, Keith Thurman, Errol Spence, if they fight each other, who you got? Look, man, I'm going to just say it right now. I got Keith. William Allen, please don't have a fighting style like Haney. Nah. Listen, I think you may have seen my fight. I posted my fight. It's in the videos, the long videos on this channel. And I posted it recently. So, you don't even have to scroll down that much. Look at my fight. I'm the walking forward, putting pressure, throwing punches type of fighter, my brother. No running. Underrated Will. Errol Spence. Oh, Hashbash Spence. Love Mohindo is with Thurman. Marlon London. Real, brother. Going to put in work. Yes, you know it, my G. On Lace, JSmiff. How you feel about the Vargas fight last night? He won, but he couldn't get away from the right hand. I'm going to get to that, my brother. Marlon London, love life. Keith will want it more. The Soto Hybrid 21. Is Errol fighting Keith? For real? Apparently, they are talking. They are in negotiations to make that fight happen. So it looks like we are going to get Errol versus Keith. I'm picking Keith to win that fight simply because he looked real good in his last outing. That's a tune-up for himself. Errol Spence hasn't been in the ring for 2 years. Last fight, he took a nasty beating to Buck Crawford. I don't know what version of Errol Spence we're going to get. I don't know how he's going to look. Marlon London, Jay goes life and death for sure. You know it, my guy. We trading leather. Nasty leather. Leo, 741. Keith wins easily. So back to your question on Lace. How do you feel about Vargas' fight last night? Look, I believe that Vargas, being a young fighter, he still got a lot to learn. And I think that Fernando Vargas is doing a great job when it comes to that development process. And I think a fight like this is about growing. It's about getting better. I think he's still in that process. So I don't see a problem with him getting hit with a few shots. I think that's part of that development process. I think that he's on point as far as the development. So I don't think it's a big deal that he got caught with a few good shots. I think that's part of the process, and they're doing a great job. Hash Bash. Thurman versus Spence at 160. I thought it was going to be at 154. Are you sure that's at 150? I could be mistaken, but I thought Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman is a fight that will go down at 154. Unlaced. I had a 3-0 Coria before the knockout. Coria? What fight is that, my brother? What fight are you talking about? Coria. 3-0 Coria. Tell me that name again. Are you spelling it right? Or am I reading it wrong? But, by the way, my people, because we talking about Errol Spence and Keith Thurman, a lot of inactivity from Errol, 2 years. But how about Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios? Manny Pacquiao been out of boxing for a minute. What, 4 years since his last fight? Since he lost to Ugas? And Manny Pacquiao is gonna come back to fight a young Mario Barrios. Try to take that title from him. Now, I gotta tell you, Manny Pacquiao is, I think, 46 years old already. Maybe he'll be 47. Okay, Corey's the guy Vargas for. Oh, okay. Coria? I didn't realize that was his last name. Look, let me tell you. I think a fight like I said before, Vargas is still in that development process. And I believe that was just a tough fight. Got clipped with a few good shots. But I think that's part of the development process. So I think that you need fights like that when you're coming up, so that when you run into adversity, it's not something that you've never seen before. I think it's a good win for him. Rustless news. In this time of day, we have breakfast at McDonald's. But I don't like this. I need a real burger, not scrambled eggs. Wish we all real men in one magic time can have a Big Mac in every time we need. Yeah. But I tell you what, man, McDonald's Big Macs are different than what they were in my day. Today, the Big Mac is a little thing like this. Back in the day, bro, the Big Mac was huge. They need to bring the huge Big Mac back. Leo, Thurman should fight more relevant fighters. Even if he beat Errol, he won't get credit. I mean, if he beats Errol Spence, obviously part of that conversation is going to be that Errol Spence was inactive, that he hasn't been around for 2 years, blah, blah, blah. So, yes, that's going to happen. Hash Bash, Marios will beat the shit out of Pac. On Lace, Gonzalo Coria. Okay, you see, I was thinking about that name, Gonzalo. I don't know, maybe I thought Gonzalo was his last name. But, listen, don't bet against Manny Pacquiao. Don't count him out, my brother. Because I'll remind you, when he was going to fight Keith Thurman at 40 years old, a lot of us said, Keith is going to wash Pac-Man. He's going to wash him. And look what happened. Manny Pacquiao shocked the world and beat Keith Thurman. The Soto hybrid, Manny versus Barrios, is going to look like Ali when he fought Holmes. It's going to be sad to watch. I don't know, man, because I said the same thing when Pacquiao was going to fight Thurman. I said the same thing. On Lace, he called out Fondora and Zayas. You think Vargas ready for them? Honestly, I don't think Vargas is ready for them yet. I don't think he's ready. I think he will, but right now I don't think so. In fact, I wanted to see Zayas versus Fondora. That's a fight I wanted to see. And look, Fondora vacated a title to avoid having to fight Zayas. Leo, Barrios fighting old man Pac, not a good look. I mean, you have to understand, my brother, that Manny Pacquiao, even though he's retired, even though he's 46 years old, he's still a big fight. He will still be Barrios' biggest payday, biggest fight, most watched fight. So that's big for Barrios. That's a big opportunity for Barrios to get his name out there and to get a nice paycheck as well. Hash Bass, Spence only have one loss against the best, so Thurman should get credit because Spence doesn't take tune-up. But that's the thing, once Errol Spence lost, he has not been back in the ring. And it's already 2 years. He's in his mid-30s. Inactivity in your mid-30s is a killer. It's not the same like when you're 21, 22 years old and you have to stay inactive for a year. And when you come back from inactivity, you're still just as young. Nah, you're in your mid-30s. You come back from inactivity, you're a little bit slower. You hit a little bit less hard. And then there's that rust that you're going to have to get through. during those first 2, 3, 4 rounds. Rustless news, right? You're time changing, and this is not only about Big Mac, it's about people. Boxing changing too, and we'll keep watching what's next. What I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. On Lace, Barrios versus Pac-Man, good fight. Barrios has taken a lot of punishment. He deserves a paycheck. Yo, and Barrios is a tough fighter. Tough fighter. Manny Pacquiao, like I said, man, I'm not willing to just write Manny Pacquiao off, because I already did that when he was gonna fight Keith Thurman, and you saw how that played out. So Manny Pacquiao is a fighter that, he's done a lot of great things throughout his career, a lot of big wins, and you just never know. He could be the guy to become a world champion in his mid-40s. Just like George Foreman, just like Bernard Hopkins. Manny Pacquiao is also an all-time great, so don't put it past him. And by the way, let me just point something else, my people, that I want you to think. That's why JSmiff, I'm the human algorithm. I'm going to tell y'all why I'm the human algorithm, how I put stuff together. Do y'all remember how a couple months ago, George Kambosos said that he was offered a fight with Floyd Mayweather in Australia in a big stadium? Y'all remember that? So I want you to consider this. Manny Pacquiao is going to get a title shot from Mario Barrios. That's almost a done deal. And Floyd Mayweather is already playing with the idea of coming back. Make of that what you will, but I'm going to tell you right now, I have a feeling that Floyd is going to get himself a little tune-up fight, and if Manny Pacquiao wins, he's going to do the rematch and try to take that belt from Manny Pacquiao in their late 40s. So that now Floyd Mayweather could become the oldest welterweight champion in history and have another record and win the rematch. Wrestling news. It's good to watch a real fight with good opponents, not some kind of a porridge. I agree with you. Especially, I want to see the best fight the best. The top level guys fight the guys that are up there as well. Leo, surprised to hear you talk about Barrios' paycheck. You must be a Barrio maniac, like you call tanker maniacs that speak on his paycheck. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. Somebody over here, I don't know who, but somebody in the chat said Barrio deserves a paycheck. And I said, yeah, he deserves it. But tanker maniacs are different, because tanker maniacs, when you argue about he's better than this guy, he's not better than this guy, they randomly bring up that he makes more money. Tanker maniacs randomly bring up that he does more pay-per-views. Like, tanker maniacs be fanagers. Stop it. Love more Hinduism. They both need to stay retired. The thing is, look, let me tell you something, my peoples. From someone who boxed like myself, I can tell you, once you get that adrenaline of stepping in the ring and trading leather with somebody, and and they hit you and you hit them, and you eat some good shots and you catch them with some good shots. Once you get that type of action, it's tough to stop. To say, I'll never do this again. That's tough. It's almost like a drug. Because when you're inside of a ring, my peoples, and you trading leather with somebody, everybody in that venue, whether it's a huge stadium or a small little club, but everybody's looking at y'all. Everybody's attention is in the ring. Those two guys fighting. And you get that adrenaline going. So, like, look at me, my peoples. I'm about to be 47 years old. And in July, I'm going to do an exhibition fight. I can't wait to do that exhibition fight. I can't wait to be in the ring trading leather with somebody. Can't wait. So I understand why these fighters who were, the greatest fighters of their era, they want to keep fighting. They want to get in the ring one more time. Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, two of the best of their era, two of the best ever. That feeling of getting in the ring, they don't want it to stop. They don't want to just say, yeah, I'm done. I got money. I don't need to fight no more. Neither one of those guys needs to fight for money. Right now, neither one of them needs the money. They just love to fight. That's what it is. Leo, joking with you, fam. You know what it is, my brother. That's what we do up in here. On Lace, JSmiff, did you see the Schofield declined $1 million to fight Abdullah Mason, instead signed to Golden Boy for 5 years for $5 million? You see, Floyd Schofield's father been talking all that shit, but they didn't bet on themselves. You didn't bet on yourself. Signed a long-term contract with Golden Boy when you could have went after the real smoke. You see? That's what happens. You talk all that shit. You wanted to fight Shakur, and now look. Now look. They know that Schofield, they know that Floyd's, they know that Abdullah Mason was gonna whoop that ass. They were like, nah, man, don't fight Abdullah, you crazy. Gonna whoop that ass. Love more Hinduism. The only guy who was old and elite was B-Hop. Now yo, Manny Pacquiao too, my brother, because 40 years old, you're no spring chicken. Now 40 years old, that's it. And look what he did to Keith Thurman. On Lace, JSmiff facts, they duck. That's what I'm trying to say, my people. That's what I'm trying to say. But, like I said, man, I think it's interesting that Manny Pacquiao is going to get a fight with Mario Barrios and Floyd Mayweather at the same time as floating the idea of coming back. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think they both fight, and then if they both win, they meet up at the top. Leo, keeping it 100. Schofield Sr. said $5 million was minimum guaranteed. Well, 5 years, I don't know, man. I'm going to put it to you like this, my brother. In my opinion, no fighter should sign a 5-year contract. No fighter. In fact, in my opinion, you got to think about this. 5 years, he's young. Put him at 3 fights a year. That's 15 fights, bro. That's 15 fights. For $5 million, 15 fights? Come on, man. Come on. So, what I believe is that fighters, if you're talented like that, if you feel like you're one of those guys that could get to the top, they shouldn't sign more than a 2-year contract. 2 years. That's it. No more than 2 years. Long-term contracts are no good. Because a lot of shit can happen in that 5 years. Y'all have a disagreement. Y'all, somebody's disgruntled. Before you know it, you get shelved. And you get to be inactive for a couple of years. Because they're like, you know what? We're not going to fight you. You on the contract. Go sit your ass down. So I believe that fighters, young fighters, should not sign 5-year contracts or longer than that, whatever it may be. But that was their opinion. Supposedly $5 million guaranteed. That's not a lot of guaranteed money for a 5-year contract. That's not a lot of guaranteed money. And I'm only saying that if you're somebody who's projected to get to the top, to become a world champion, because to a lot of fighters, that's a lot of money. Let's not get it twisted. There's fighters who never see that type of money. But still, if you're signing a 5-year contract, you're not betting on yourself. You don't believe in yourself. You're like, well, let's take this guaranteed money in and see what happens. Like this guy apparently thought he could beat Shakur, right? Y'all was about to fight Shakur. So you feel like you're on that level. Why would you sign a 5-year contract? I don't know. I don't like it. When you sign a long-term contract like that, you assured yourself that you're stuck with that promotional companies for the next 5 years, and you may not be able to get certain fights. Hash Bash, Scofield versus Abdullah. It's a good fight, but Scofield will have a lot to lose. It's more better for Abdullah because he's on the rise. I mean, to be honest, I see Abdullah Mason putting the beats on Floyd Scofield if they fight. So it was good for them not to fight Abdullah. I get that. But a 5-year contract, I don't agree with it. Leo, AB didn't take guarantees, and he lost. I mean, you got to believe in yourself. That's what it's all about. You got to believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, go fight, make your money. But if you think that maybe down the line somebody's going to beat your ass or something going to happen, take the guaranteed money. At least you know you're going to get that for sure. On Lace, I don't like the 5-year either. Why cut off your legs to one promotional company? That's what I'm saying, yo. 5 years is a long time. A lot of shit can happen in 5 years. And the thing is, when you sign a long contract like that, it could play out everything beautiful, everything nice. But the moment you have a disagreement, you know, or you mad at each other, or you argue with Oscar De La Hoya or somebody on the team, before you know it, you get to be inactive. You get put on a shelf. You don't get the fight that you want. Now you're a disgruntled fighter with inactivity. So I don't like it. 5-year contract. Nope. To me, this is just my personal opinion. Nobody in boxing should be signing a 5-year contract. 2 years. 2 years. That's the most that I will be down with. Rush to the news. Thanks for conversation. It's 5:24 a.m. at my place. Wish you a good stream. Appreciate you dropping in, my brother. Shout out to you and everybody in Russia who keep showing me love. Enjoy your day, my brother. On Lace, 5 mil can be made way faster than 5 years. Of course. That's what I'm saying. As a fighter, if you're that talented, you got to bet on yourself. But for him to make that type of money, he's got to fight some big names and win some big fights. And that's where you're risking it. Because if you say, okay, nah, I'm not going to take the guaranteed money, I'm going to bet on myself, and then you get your ass kicked by Abdullah Mason, you ain't going to be seeing no $5 million. Your stock is going to plummet. So I think De La Hoya, I think their plan is going to be to work with Floyd Scofield, keep going with that development process and slowly bringing him up. But that shows you the fact that they took the guaranteed 5 years, it shows you that they didn't really think they could beat Shakur. If you really thought you was going to beat Shakur, you don't need a 5-year guarantee, $5 million. You don't need that. You don't need to sign long term. Let me prove to y'all that I'm a star and I'm going to make more money anyways. So I think it says a lot, the fact that they went with the guaranteed money. You don't believe in yourself. I mean, of course, let me not exaggerate, right? It's not that you don't believe that you could win or that you could get to the top, but you don't have as much confidence when you take that long-term contract. You say, well, let me take this money, this is guaranteed. If I get my ass whooped down the line, at least I got this guaranteed money. That's how I see it, my people. On Lace, against all odds. My peoples, I'm about to finish this live, but before I do, as always, I want to give a shout out to everybody who came through to show me love. On Lace, Rushless News from Russia, Leo, Hash Bash, John Parham, love more Hinduism, and everybody else who came through to talk boxing with me. Y'all already know what it is, man. I'm JSmiff. This is Box Center, your favorite boxers, favorite boxing show. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. By the way, I posted some videos today, some shorts, from yesterday's fights. Check those out, my peoples, and enjoy the show. I'm out of here, my people. See y'all tomorrow. Salute, bam, and peace and love to everybody.